All right, these three computers, they have a lot in common. They got a similar design language. They have Motorola 68K series CPUs. They have a GUI-based operating system. They also have very mushy keyboards. I got something here to try to do something about it and see if it works. Let's get to it. The original Atari ST line of computers all had a very similar type of keyboard. The 520 ST, the 1040 ST, the 1040 and 520 STEs, and the Atari Falcon all had a very similar rubber dome style keyboard. And it all felt, they all have a very significant travel and a very mushy feel to them. They bottom out pretty heavily and they work, right? And they do work. They do the job they're supposed to, activating the keys. It basically is a rubber dome, similar to what you see here, with a carbon contact on the bottom that taps a PCB and makes contact, which sends a signal to the keyboard and drives the key presses. That's the all-in-one, or whatever you want to call it, the keyboard style computers. The Atari ST line of computers also had a couple other keyboards that were produced. We have also here, this is the Mega ST keyboard, and this has Cherry MX black switches on it. A fantastic keyboard, and I would say this is the gem of all of the keyboards for the Atari ST line of computers. Fantastic, fantastic feel, very nice light activation, great mechanical switches. Love this keyboard. Love this keyboard to bet. This is my favorite Atari keyboard. And one of my favorite keyboards altogether, vintage keyboards. Now, in addition to the Mega ST keyboard, there's also the TT keyboard and Mega STE keyboard, which is also a separate keyboard that went with the big box computers. This, however, was not a mechanical switch style keyboard. This is another type of rubber dome keyboard, but it has a much more tactile feel to it. And in reality, I actually really like this keyboard. This is, I would say, akin, maybe even a bit better than a modern rubber dome style keyboard. A great feel, a very kind of tactile activation kind of a feel. So the hope is that if these rubber domes here provide a similar feel, if not the same feel, as this Mega STE keyboard, then I think that might be a good thing for my Atari Falcon. And if it's good for my Atari Falcon, eventually it might make it in all the rest of my fleet of Atari computers. But what we're going to do today, we're going to test this guy out. This came from Best Electronics in California. They originally, just a little story about these guys. These Best Electronics, the company Best Electronics bought out a large amount of the final inventory of Atari back in the 1990s and has maintained a pretty significant inventory of basically new old stock, as well as some refurbished hardware and whatnot. In addition to all that stuff that they had, they also had an original TT Touch set of rubber domes that they would sell for folks to upgrade their mushy keyboards. They ran out of stock, I don't know, a few years ago, a while back. They then contracted out some more. There's a whole story on the website. The funny thing about the Best Electronics website, it looks like it's something out of the early to mid 1990s. It is very old school. The guy who runs it, he's really old school as well. He doesn't need your money, so you got to kind of work with him. He's a nice enough guy. I've actually purchased a number of things from him in the past, and I've never had issues. I've heard stories of many people who have had issues with him. He's just, if you don't do things his way, he doesn't want to do business with you. He wants to keep things simple. Don't want to order too much. Don't want to order too little. Don't order too frequently. And order in a very specific manner. And he's good. And it's perfect. But that said, he has these. This is the source for these guys. Best Electronics. Let's get to tearing apart my Atari Falcon, pull the keyboard out, swap the rubber domes, and see if we actually get a TT Touch or Mega ST Touch in the end. So there are plenty of replacement keyboards that exist for many different retro computers. In the case of the Atari ST and Atari Falcon, I have not seen one as of yet, a mechanical style. There is a mechanical style keyboard for the Atari XE line of computers, which looks really cool. In fact, I think you can even get in a Falcon style color as well. There are mechanical keyboards available for Amigas, also for, I believe, even the Commodore 64s. But like I said, I have not yet seen one for the Atari ST or Atari Falcon line of computers specifically. So, for the moment, the option I'm taking is this TT Touch. And we'll get this I opened. Take off the lid. Detach the keyboard. And the thing is that these keyboards on the 1040 STFs, STEs are all fully compatible with each other. They have the same connectors. If you want to run a Falcon keyboard in your Atari ST, more power to you. I think that would be a sad use for an Atari Falcon keyboard. But that said, you could do it. You could also run an Atari ST keyboard in a Falcon if you needed to. So what we're going to do now, oh, look at that. I even got a jumper there. That fell in there. Well, thank goodness it didn't do anything. Whew. Not sure where that came from. What we'll do is we're just going to disassemble all the screws, and we'll just fast forward through this section here. An empty little container for all the old rubber domes to go into. So these are perfectly usable rubber domes. The keyboard is, I wouldn't say flawless, but all the contacts work, all the key presses work, so that is fantastic. Don't want to lose those. Now let's scoot this all into frame so you can see me scooping them all up. Okay. Now before we put them all away, we're going to open up these guys here and take a look at the inside here and compare these two, these two different versions of domes here. So if you look at them top down, there's a clear difference. You can see I cut my thumb open, but you can see a clear difference in the design, especially if you look at them profile-wise. This is more of a rubber dome. This is less of a dome shape, right? And allows for a little more of a differential in the pressure. This is more same pressure throughout. This has a little click, kind of a tactile feel, it feels like. But let's start installing these guys. And actually, let's compare one more, because what you may have noticed is that there's a different color one in here, this orangish guy. And the intent behind this one, at least according to our friends at Best Computers, is that this is one of the original style of TT Touch domes, and is to be potentially used with the keyboard. This has a much more dome shape to it and less of the pillar in the middle kind of shape. But what I'll do is I will try this with the keyboard, see how I like it, and then put everyone else everywhere else. And what we need to do, the process I use here, is I like to prop up the sides so that the keys hang low. And I'm able to insert these relatively easily, and they stay in the pockets. Nice and simple. One thing to also remember is that the Enter key, while it has space for two of them, only really uses one in general. Now, I might use two just because I might want to. These are sticking together a little bit, so I want to make sure I don't stick in two. Yeah, it's just one for each of the keyboard keycaps. Keyboard keys, rather, is a better way to put it. Well, looky here. I have a few extra. That was nice. We'll put a second one in for the Enter key. If it ends up being too firm, I can always remove it. But a couple other things. We looked at the geometric differences between the two domes here. One thing that is interesting, as I was putting them in, I noticed that the carbon contacts are significantly larger under the TT Touch. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't cause any errors. Hopefully maybe it makes it more robust. We'll see. Let's get this assembled back together and see where we're at. Voila, we are done. Just make sure there's all the, yeah, they're all there. Moment of truth here. Interesting. There's more of a tactile feel. Less travel. At least it feels like less travel. Requires a little more pressure. I thought it would make it lighter touch. They feel a little like they need a little heavier touch to type. No, that feels not too bad. Ah, yes, that feels good. Let me pull out another Atari ST keyboard. Let's kind of do a little quick side by side. This has a much better feel to it. I wish it had a little more travel, but I do like the tactile nature of it. That's interesting. The T key feels different than the Y key. Not sure why. Maybe it's just my finger where it was touching. Looks like this one, the escape key, Feels like it may not have gone in properly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up again and then try to reseat them again. I'll do that off camera. Okay, tactile feel is good. Now for the last test. We're going to move the Atari ST mushy keyboard aside and put up the Atari Mega ST, or the TT. It has a similar tactile feel. This is a little more, I would call it snappy. It has more of a tactile bump. And the travel on this is, there's more travel on the Mega ST keyboard, or the TT keyboard. So while it isn't perfect, it is very much better, but it's not quite as good in my mind as the Mega ST keyboard. All right, so let's put this back in the computer, test it out, and make sure that everything works. Okay, we are at the desktop for my Atari Falcon. Let's pull up a nice little word processor. Papyrus. All right. This is a script for an upcoming video. Let's do a quick test. Yeah, it's requiring a bit more force than when I expected in typing, but it is all working. Everything is working properly. Especially the Y. Why is that? Maybe I should swap out the Y dome. The others are okay. All right. But in general, it does feel a lot better. Feels more like a more modern style dome keyboard. I like it. I'm going to keep it and keep it installed in here. I'm going to type on it a bit more, see how much I like it in the longer term before I go about wanting to upgrade the other keyboards. Also, who knows, there might be a mechanical keyboard upgrade that comes out available for the Atari ST, and I might be interested in trying something out like that. All right. Thank you for joining me in this quick little upgrade, quick little journey. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.